What if I told you the Cleveland Browns may have just pulled off one of the biggest smoke and mirror plays in the NFL? Because everything we thought we knew about Shedeur Sanders' so-called injury might not be the truth at all. After missing a week of practice with what the team labeled an oblique injury, Shedeur made his return. But here's the problem. He didn't look like a player fighting his way back from pain. He looked like the best quarterback on the field. Reports say the moment he stepped out, the energy shifted instantly. Players stopped to watch. Coaches froze. Suddenly, every narrative about him not being ready got flipped upside down. Eyewitnesses described him firing laser throws, dropping dimes, and commanding the field like he'd never missed a single rep. This wasn't just a rookie coming back from a tweak. This was a quarterback making a statement. And the look on Kevin Stefanski's face? Let's just say speechless doesn't even begin to cover it. So here's the real question. Was this injury even real? Or were the Browns deliberately slowing down his rise? Because the timing is just too convenient. Right before a key preseason game, he's sidelined. Then, almost like clockwork, he returns looking sharper than ever. If that doesn't sound like a carefully managed rollout, I don't know what does. But don't just take my word for it. Look at the reactions from his teammates. Veterans like Myles Garrett, guys who have seen it all in this league, couldn't stop praising him. Receivers ran crisper routes, tight ends fought harder for contested catches, and the entire offense played with new life. That kind of response isn't manufactured, it's earned. And Shedeur has clearly earned their respect. Meanwhile, Cleveland media outlets and radio hosts were scrambling. Some tried to downplay the footage, brushing it off as just a practice. But when your quarterback dominates so completely that social media explodes with clips, you can't hide it. Excellence doesn't need a spin job. And here's where it gets even more interesting. At Colorado, Shedeur wasn't just good, he elevated everyone around him. Travis Hunter didn't become a Heisman winner and top draft pick by accident. He thrived because Shedeur made him look unstoppable. Now imagine what that means for Cleveland's roster. Talented receivers? Check. A run game desperate for balance? Check. A defense tired of carrying the load? Double check. Shedeur is the missing piece. Compare him to the other quarterbacks on the roster. Dillon Gabriel, watching from the back. Kenny Pickett, still battling injuries. Joe Flacco, a respected veteran, sure, but not the future. The writing is on the wall, and today's practice session underlined it in bold. So here's my prediction. Shedeur Sanders is going to be the Browns' starting quarterback sooner than anyone expects. This injury saga wasn't a setback, it was a setup. The Browns wanted him to earn it, and now he's earned more than just a roster spot. He's earned the keys to the franchise. But what do you think? Is Cleveland finally ready to unleash Shedeur Sanders, or will politics keep holding him back? Drop your thoughts below because this story is only getting started. For over a week, the Cleveland Browns organization had been feeding fans the same story. Shedeur Sanders was sidelined with an oblique injury, nothing major, just something to monitor. The message was clear, don't expect too much too soon. And for days, that narrative stuck. Fans scrolled through social media, analysts speculated about timelines, and everyone assumed the rookie quarterback was dealing with a legitimate setback. But then came the day that changed everything. When Shedeur walked back onto the practice field, it didn't feel like business as usual. Teammates noticed it first, the sudden spark in the air, the kind of electricity you can't fake. For a player supposedly limited by an injury, Shedeur didn't jog slowly, didn't test himself cautiously, and didn't look tentative. He came out loose, confident, and with a presence that demanded attention. Almost instantly, the energy shifted. You could see players on the sideline looking over, coaches exchanging quick glances, and a buzz moving through the facility. It was like the return of a star everyone had been waiting for. Remember, the official story was that his oblique had kept him from throwing at full speed. Yet the moment he picked up a football, that excuse collapsed. Pass after pass came out like bullets, tight spirals, laser accuracy, and throws that cut through the air with ease. It wasn't just that he looked healthy, it was that he looked better than he had before the injury. For a supposed recovery day, Shedeur was out there dominating every single rep. What made this return even more shocking was the silence that followed from the coaching staff. Kevin Stefanski, a man who normally controls the message carefully, stood back with his arms folded, watching. Reports from practice insiders said he looked almost frozen, as if he didn't quite know how to process what he was seeing. Here was a rookie who just missed time, stepping back in and commanding the field like the unquestioned leader of the offense. It didn't line up with the story fans had been told all week. And this is where the questions started piling up. If Shedeur had really been nursing an oblique injury, how did he look so explosive, so sharp, so completely unaffected? Was the injury a convenient cover story to keep him off the field while the Browns figured out their quarterback situation? Or was it an attempt to temper expectations, to make sure the rookie wasn't crowned too quickly by the media and fans? Whatever the reason, one thing became obvious during that practice. Shedeur Sanders wasn't limping back into relevance. He was storming back onto the scene with authority. Teammates began feeding off his energy, receivers sprinting harder through routes, linemen digging in like the rep mattered more than usual. This wasn't just a player returning, it was a team responding to leadership. The sudden return of Shedeur Sanders didn't just flip a switch in Cleveland's practice facility. It raised serious doubts about everything fans had been told about his injury, his readiness, and his role in the Browns' future. And the way he carried himself made one thing crystal clear. If the team had been trying to keep him under wraps, that plan just got blown apart. From the very beginning, something about Shedeur Sanders' injury story didn't sit right. The Browns labeled it an oblique issue, but the details were vague, the timeline was fuzzy, and every update from the coaching staff felt more like damage control than genuine concern. In the NFL, teams have been known to play games with information, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. And in Shedeur's case, the evidence is stacking up that what we saw was less of an injury and more of a carefully staged performance. Think about the timing. Just as fans were starting to call for Shedeur to see more reps, suddenly he's sidelined. Not with a broken bone, not with something major, just an oblique tweak. Conveniently, this kept him out of a crucial preseason matchup, quieted the media frenzy, and allowed the Browns to redirect attention toward the veterans on the roster. Then, after a week of whispers, he comes back looking sharper than ever. No easing back into drills, no rust, just domination. Does that sound like an authentic injury recovery to you? Now, here's where it gets even more suspicious. When Stefanski was asked about Shedeur's condition, his answers were vague at best. He's doing well, he'll be back soon. That's not the kind of medical clarity fans expect when a young quarterback, the potential face of your franchise, is supposedly hurt. Instead, it felt like the team was deliberately buying time, and today's practice explosion all but confirmed it. If Shedeur had truly been dealing with pain, there's no way he would have been zipping passes across the field with that kind of velocity. Rumors online are already spreading. Some fans believe the Browns faked the injury to control the narrative, protecting Shedeur from early criticism and creating a slow-burn storyline where he earns his way into the starting role. Others suggest it was an internal chess move, giving the coaching staff cover while they sort out the depth chart. After all, how do you justify sitting your most talented quarterback in favor of veterans like Flacco without some sort of excuse? Labeling it an injury neatly solves that problem. And let's be honest, the NFL thrives on smoke and mirrors. We've seen franchises bend the truth before, whether it's about injuries, playing time, or even trade rumors. Coaches are masters of keeping their cards close to the chest. In Shedeur's case, though, the smoke may have cleared a little too soon. His performance at practice blew up across social media, and once the footage leaked, there was no hiding the fact that he's not just healthy, he's ready. So, was the oblique story ever real? Or was it a classic misdirection, designed to lower the pressure, buy the team time, and keep the spotlight off their rookie until they were ready to unleash him? We may never get the official answer, but one thing is undeniable. The Browns' attempt to control the narrative just backfired. Because now, the only storyline fans want to hear is when Shedeur Sanders will take over as Cubone. If you really want to know who the best quarterback on a roster is, don't listen to the press conferences. Don't rely on the coach's carefully worded answers. Don't even take the front office at face value. The real truth is written on the faces of the players who line up with him every single day. And in Cleveland, the players have already revealed their answer whether the Browns want to admit it or not. Vaded him, feeding him the ball in the right moments, trusting him to make plays, and building his confidence week after week. That same leadership is already surfacing in Cleveland. And here's where the truth becomes undeniable. The locker room always knows. Players can tell when a guy is different. They can see the work ethic, feel the poise under pressure, and sense the swagger that can't be coached. When reports surfaced that teammates were stopping their own drills just to watch Shedeur throw, that wasn't hype, that was recognition. recognition that they were witnessing the future of their franchise in real time. So while coaches and analysts debate whether he's ready, the players already made up their minds. They know who gives them the best chance to win. They know the rookie isn't just another arm in training camp, he's the quarterback who makes the entire team better. And when a locker room rallies around one guy, eventually, the organization has no choice but to follow. Because in football, the truth always leaks out, and in Cleveland, the truth is clear. Shedeur Sanders has already won over the people who matter most. The moment practice footage of Shedeur Sanders hit social media, the reaction was explosive. Clips of him zipping passes, hitting receivers in stride, and carrying himself like a seasoned veteran went viral almost instantly. Fans didn't see a rookie recovering from injury, they saw their future franchise quarterback. But not everyone was ready to embrace the moment. In fact, the reaction from Cleveland sports media told a very different story. Local radio shows scrambled to downplay what had happened. Analysts insisted it was just practice and warned fans not to overreact. Some went so far as to suggest that Shedeur's dominance was overhyped, that the real story was how much work he still had to do. It almost felt like they were bending over backwards to keep the narrative under control, as if admitting what really happened would create problems for the coaching staff. But here's the problem. Excellence doesn't need a spin job. You can't unsee a quarterback firing lasers all over the field. You can't ignore veterans nodding their heads in respect after every throw. Fans watching those clips didn't care about the disclaimers or the excuses. What they saw with their own eyes was a quarterback who looked ready to take over, and no amount of radio chatter was going to convince them otherwise. That disconnect between what fans witnessed and what media voices were selling only fueled the backlash. Social platforms lit up with angry comments, accusing local analysts of protecting the team's agenda rather than telling the truth. Browns fans who've endured decades of instability at the quarterback position weren't buying the "be patient" narrative anymore. To them, the patience ran out years ago. And now that they'd seen a young star lighting up practice, they wanted him on the field immediately. The backlash didn't stop with the media. It extended to the organization itself. Some fans accused the Browns of deliberately hiding Shedeur, of manipulating the injury narrative to stall his rise. Others speculated that politics, respect for veterans like Joe Flacco, or protecting the confidence of Kenny Pickett were holding him back. But the louder the fans shouted, the clearer it became. Patience wasn't the issue. Belief was. And the city of Cleveland was starting to believe in Shedeur Sanders. For a franchise that spent years searching for stability under center, the reaction makes sense. Every time the Browns cycle through another quarterback, the frustration grows. So when a player comes along who not only looks the part but energizes his teammates and ignites the fan base, people don't want to wait. They don't want excuses. They want results. And here's the irony: by trying to downplay Shedeur's impact, the media may have only made the hype bigger. The harder they tried to brush it off, the more fans dug in, pointing to the footage and demanding answers. Because you can't hide a spark this bright, and in Cleveland, the people who matter most, the fans, are already rallying around their new quarterback. The spin may have worked for a while, but the backlash is proof of something undeniable. Shedeur Sanders has changed the conversation, and there's no turning back. Step back from the daily headlines for a moment, and you start to realize this isn't just about one practice session, or even about whether Shedeur Sanders starts in Week 1. This is about something much larger. It's about what his presence means for the Cleveland Browns as a whole, and why his rise could completely reshape the future of this franchise. Think about where the Browns have been. For decades, this team has lived through a carousel of quarterbacks. Big names, draft busts, short-term veterans one after another, none able to bring long-term stability. For fans, it's become a cruel cycle. Flashes of hope followed by crushing disappointment. So when someone like Shedeur shows up, a rookie with undeniable talent, charisma, and leadership, it doesn't just feel exciting. It feels like the potential turning point Cleveland has been waiting on for years. And it's not just about throwing mechanics or highlight passes. The bigger picture is what Shedeur brings to the entire team dynamic. Look back at his Colorado days. He didn't just elevate his own stats, he elevated everyone around him. Travis Hunter became a household name. Receivers who might have been overlooked turned into playmakers. Shedeur had that rare quality of making his teammates believe they were better than they thought they were. That's leadership you can't fake, and now it's bleeding into the Browns' locker room. Imagine the ripple effects on this roster. Cleveland has young receivers hungry for opportunities, but without consistent quarterback play, their potential goes untapped. Pair them with Shedeur, and suddenly you have an offense that stretches defenses and forces opponents to respect every part of the field. Add in a strong running game, and the Browns could balance their attack in a way that keeps defenses guessing every single snap. And then there's the defense. This unit has been carrying the weight for far too long, often staying on the field for 35 to 40 minutes a game because the offense can't sustain drives. That takes a toll, but with Shedeur leading efficient, confident drives, the defense gets more rest, more energy, and more chances to dominate. Football is complementary by nature, and Shedeur could be the missing link that finally ties it all together. The bigger picture also includes Cleveland's identity. For years, the Browns have been viewed as a franchise stuck in mediocrity, always on the edge but never quite breaking through. Shedeur changes that narrative. He brings a fresh energy, a spotlight, and a sense of belief that Cleveland can compete with anyone. And in today's NFL, where quarterbacks define franchises, that shift in identity is priceless. So when we talk about Shedeur Sanders, we're not just talking about a rookie returning from a so-called injury. We're talking about a player who could redefine what it means to be a Cleveland Brown. This isn't just hype, it's the possibility of transformation. And for a city that's been starving for a true franchise quarterback, that bigger picture might be more important than any single throw at practice. To really understand why Shedeur Sanders' rise feels inevitable, you have to look at the other quarterbacks in Cleveland's locker room. Because while Shedeur has been turning heads, the rest of the QB room tells a very different story, a story of stopgaps, setbacks, and uncertainty. Let's start with Dillon Gabriel. By all accounts, Gabriel is a talented young passer with promise, but promise doesn't equal presence. Reports from camp say that while Shedeur was commanding attention with every throw, Gabriel was often lingering in the background, going through drills without making much noise. That's not necessarily a knock on him, it's just the reality. Some quarterbacks have that natural ability to draw focus, others don't, and when the competition is this fierce, fading into the background is the last thing you can afford to do. Then there's Kenny Pickett. The Browns brought him in with hopes he could push for a meaningful role, but injuries have clouded his availability. While Shedeur was putting on a show in practice, Pickett was still progressing, as the team put it. That word progressing has become code for "we don't know when he'll be ready." For a team trying to build momentum, uncertainty like that is costly. It's tough for teammates to rally behind a quarterback who can't consistently take the field. And finally, you've got Joe Flacco. A respected veteran, a Super Bowl winner, and a guy who brings leadership to the locker room. But let's be real, everyone knows he's not the long-term answer. Flacco's value comes from experience and mentorship, not from being the face of the franchise for the next decade. His presence is steady, but it's not electrifying. And in today's NFL, steady isn't enough if you're trying to chase championships. Contrast all of that with Shedeur Sanders. While Gabriel blends in, Shedeur stands out. While Pickett rehabs, Shedeur is on the field, making plays and winning respect. While Flacco steadies the ship, Shedeur is generating momentum powerful enough to lift the entire team. The difference is night and day, and the locker room knows it. This isn't about tearing down the other quarterbacks, it's about recognizing what Shedeur brings that they simply don't. The Browns don't just need a quarterback who can manage games, they need someone who can change the trajectory of the franchise. And when you put Shedeur's energy, leadership, and raw ability side by side with the rest of the depth chart, the gap is glaring. That's why today's practice mattered so much. It wasn't just that Shedeur looked good, it's that he looked different. He looked like the guy who could take the Browns out of the cycle of mediocrity and finally give fans the kind of quarterback they've been waiting for. The competition isn't even close, and the players feel it. The writing is already on the wall. Because when you line them all up, the contrast couldn't be clearer. Cleveland's future doesn't belong to Gabriel, Pickett, or Flacco. It belongs to Shedeur Sanders. So where does all of this leave us? Shedeur Sanders has made his mark. The locker room is buzzing, and the media can't stop speculating. But the real question now is, what comes next? Because the Browns are standing at a crossroads, and the path they choose could define their season and maybe even their franchise for years to come. The immediate next step is the preseason. This is where everything starts to get real. It's one thing to shine in practice, but under the lights, with real defensive pressure and fans in the stands, the stakes are higher. The Browns coaching staff will want to see how Shedeur handles blitzes, broken plays, and game speed decisions. If he looks as composed in live action as he does in practice, the calls for him to take over the starting role will get louder fast. But the front office has its own dilemma. They've invested in other quarterbacks, both financially and in terms of reputation. Handing the keys to a rookie immediately could be seen as risky, even reckless. Yet the flip side is even riskier, holding back a rising star when the team clearly rallies behind him. Delay too long, and you risk not only frustrating fans but also losing momentum inside the locker room. Fans, of course, are already ahead of the decision makers. Social media is filled with highlight clips, bold predictions, and non-stop chatter about when Shedeur will officially take over. Some believe it's only a matter of time before he's named the starter. Others caution patience, warning that throwing him into the fire too early could backfire. That split in opinion mirrors the pressure the organization feels behind closed doors. And then there's the bigger league-wide picture. If Shedeur does step into the spotlight and delivers, it won't just be a win for Cleveland, it'll shake up the entire NFL narrative. Suddenly, the Browns wouldn't be the team with quarterback questions. They'd be the team with the quarterback answer. Rival defenses would have to adjust. Analysts would be forced to rethink their playoff predictions. And Shedeur himself would be thrust into a new tier of fame almost overnight. But there's always the possibility of turbulence. The NFL has humbled countless rookies before, and the moment Shedeur hits a rough patch, critics will pounce. How he responds to adversity on and off the field will be the ultimate test of whether he's ready to carry a franchise on his shoulders. That's the drama fans will be glued to as the season unfolds. So, what's next? Preseason games, pressure-packed decisions, endless speculation, and a franchise on the brink of rewriting its identity. The Browns have waited decades for stability at quarterback. With Shedeur Sanders, the answer may finally be here. But the story is still being written, and the next chapter could change everything. And that brings us to the question everyone's been asking. Is Shedeur Sanders about to change not only the Browns, but the entire NFL landscape? We've seen him storm back into the spotlight, silence doubters, and outshine every other quarterback on the roster. We've watched as teammates rally around him, fans light up social media, and the media machine spins every highlight into a headline. But for all the noise, one truth remains: his story is only just beginning. Think about it, rarely do you see a rookie step into such a complicated situation with this much confidence. Most young quarterbacks are hidden away, slowly developed, cautiously introduced into the game plan. But Shedeur hasn't just walked into the room, he's taken it over. His presence is magnetic, his leadership is undeniable, and his playmaking has turned heads in a way the Browns haven't seen in years. But here's the catch: the NFL is ruthless. One bad game, one costly mistake, and the same people cheering him on today could be tearing him down tomorrow. That's the unforgiving cycle of pro football, and Shedeur is stepping into that storm with more eyes on him than almost any rookie in the league. The hype is real, but so is the risk. The Browns know this, the coaches know this, and most importantly, Shedeur knows this. Which is why every decision from this point forward matters. Does he get the starting nod right away, or does the team hold him back for development? Does he thrive in the pressure of preseason lights, or stumble under the weight of expectation? And if he does seize the job, what happens when defenses adjust, when the media starts poking holes, when the spotlight burns hotter than ever before? This is the edge of the cliff. We're standing right at the point where potential meets reality. Shedeur Sanders could become the face of a new era in Cleveland, the quarterback fans have waited decades to believe in. Or he could be the latest name on a long list of what-ifs. That's the razor-thin margin of the NFL, and it's what makes this story so gripping. So, as the Browns prepare for the next chapter, one thing is certain: all eyes will be on Shedeur. Every throw, every snap, every sideline reaction will be dissected and debated. And whether he soars to stardom or stumbles under the pressure, the ride is guaranteed to be unforgettable. Because the truth is, we don't know how this ends. And maybe that's the most exciting part. What happens next? Will Shedeur Sanders rise to the occasion and shock the league, or will the NFL storm swallow him whole? One thing's for sure, this is a story that's only just getting started, and you won't want to miss the next chapter. If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.